the U.S. Supreme Court's, well, let me say this. I don't think that anywhere is the Supreme Court granted the sole authority to determine the extent of federal power. I think if you go back and you look at what our founding fathers said in setting up the state governments, you'll find out that they all wanted to make sure in their state documents that the federal government was, that they had the ability to go back and nullify when they needed to. And they made that clear in what they wrote into their state constitution.
So is it your opinion that the nullification crisis of 1832 was resolved incorrectly?
I'm not sure what the Nullification Act of 1832 was, Mr. Chairman.
That was, when this issue first came to a head in the United States in 1832, it was over the tariff and the Tariff Act, and South Carolina decided to nullify the Tariff Act. And they passed in their state legislature, passed a resolution to say that it was nullified within the bounds of South Carolina. And then in response, there was some action taken on the tariff in Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court deemed that the Tariff Act was constitutional, and our own Andrew Jackson was president at the time, who was a strong supporter of states' rights. I feel somewhat similar to him in this instance, in that I was a supporter of the bill, the original bill that you passed in here a couple of years ago, that upheld the Second Amendment rights of Tennesseans for firearms and ammunition that were produced in the state of Tennessee and that did not leave the borders of Tennessee. So I'm on record as having supported that. Andrew Jackson was on record as having been a strong supporter of federalism. However, he felt that to have a state simply nullify that decision in that act, the state was the wrong actor to be making that decision, and then he was able to convince Congress to pass the Force Act, which said that the federal government was going to enforce its laws on the state of South Carolina, at which point the state, I think very wisely, backed down at the last second and really pushed off the Civil War for another 20 plus years at that point. And the issue really has not been raised again since then, to my knowledge, to the extent of actually arresting federal officers and or having confrontation between the federal and state officers, other than obviously the United States Civil War.